Hey guys, in this video we're going to be talking about best in slot gear for protection warriors in tier 7. We're going over obviously gear, enchants, even some consumes and stuff. For that, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow my Twitch in the description below. Let's get right into it. Wrath Classic Prot Warrior. So there's going to be some item slots that are really obvious, and that's going to be the case with the first item we talk about here, which is the helmet slot. The tier helmet's really good. It has good set bonuses and individually is very strong. This is your best piece of tier, and you definitely want the tier helm. Of course, there's a lot of different items you could use as a placeholder. In theory, you could argue that Tempered Titan Steel may have some niches over the tier helm because it has higher stamina. Same goes for the Obsidian Great Helm, but overall, pound for pound, tier helm is definitely your best helmet. For enchant, you pretty much always need the defense enchant. You just really struggle with crit immunity, especially in phase 1. So you really need that enchant. When it comes to gems, your overall gemming strategy, you have a lot of flexibility to do what you want with it. You are going to always use the stamina and armor value enchant when you're trying to be as tanky as possible. But you could use like the block value meta gem for fun if you wanted to. You do need one red gem to satisfy your meta, which can be used with either a nightmare tier or an expertise or agility hybrid gem, whichever you can get your hands on. The nightmare tier is going to be the best though. You only get one of these across your character's gear. So that's kind of gemming. Besides that, when it comes to gemming, you can go for pure stamina. If all you care about is survivability, if you want to eke out a little more value from your gem sockets, you can gem expertise or agility in those sockets, depending on what you're looking for. This one uses a couple expertise gems and some stamina bonuses, but you easily could just drop stamina gems in them and no problem. Slight amount of expertise doesn't put us at any soft caps or anything like that, and we just have more health this way. This is going to be better for progression, so a lot of flexibility there. Right, let's talk about neck. Boundless Ambition is the best neck by far. I think there's an argument to be made that the Nexus War Champion bead could be a strong progression option because it has more stamina than Boundless Ambition on progression, but you lose armor. And this is a highly contested item, so I would only go for this towards the end of phase 1, once all the other people in your raid have already completed the Eye of Eternity quest. But yeah, this item is actually pretty good for pure mitigation, but should not be a priority for tanks. You should try and get Boundless Ambition. But yeah, those two necks are way better than everything else. On to shoulders. We have got Valorous, Dreadnought, Pauldrons, or Unnatural Death. These are pretty much the two shoulders you're going to go for. Unnatural Death are the best individual shoulder. Dreadnought, Pauldrons give you the option with tier. Now, I guess I'll talk about the tier a little bit here. The 2 set is pretty much free. You should always get the 2 set because it's just, why not? Your helmet's already really good, so you might as well just use one other piece. All the tier pieces are individually pretty strong. So you just get a free 10% shield slam damage. Now, the shield wall active, I would say, is good for progression and good on some specific bosses that have big enrages. I'm thinking of Myaxna, Grand Widow Fiorina, Patchwork. These are fights where the shield wall on use set bonus increase is going to be fine. I'd say generally speaking, if you're preparing for like Uld War progression, getting that 4 set's going to be nice as well. 3 seconds of shield wall is going to be more relevant than a tiny stat difference that you substitute for not having the 4 set. On farm though, you don't really need it and can go with a lot of these alternatives I'm discussing. So on farm, you can definitely use Unnatural Death. All right, shoulder enchant, you're pretty much always using stamina and resilience. You need that resilience, and the stamina is really good. Even if you're someone like Inscription and have like your special enchant, it's kind of worse still. So unfortunate. I would not recommend Inscription as a tank warrior. Next, we've got our Cloak. 3 good cloaks. Any of these 3 are fine. Cloak of Shadowed Sun is going to be your tankiest cloak. Shadow of the Ghoul is, very good as well and is kind of the block value version of a cloak. And then we've got a hit cloak. All of these are perfectly fine. Platinum Mesh Cloak is very good. Don't sleep on that just because it's, I guess, hypothetically worse than this one. It's still very good. And you get it with Emblems of Valor. Enchant wise, I think Underlay, it's an engineering enchant that gives you a parachute. Definitely the most fun enchant. I'm going to use this most of the time because it's cool. But Titan Weave is going to be important to keep in mind if you're having trouble with crit immunity, and Mighty Armor is what I would be using on progression rating to be as tanky as possible. Valorous Dreadnought Breastplate. We're using this for the 4-set again, for Shield Wall, thinking of like how can we be as tanky as possible, Old War, as that's really what you should be thinking of and preparing for. But once again, there's like 4 good chests you can use. You can use this Avoidance chest, Dragonstorm Breastplate. You can use the Breastplate of Tormented Rage, which is high hit, high defense, which is kind of nice. A little low on stamina though, because there's no sockets. And then we've got our Chest Guard of the Exhausted, which is going to be a very high defense chest, which gives us some yellow socket bonuses too for more defense gems. So yeah, Chest Guard of the Exhausted, again, I would personally lean towards this one because it really helps with your crit immunity. Defense is really good as an individual item, but Valorous Breastplate, again, is so close, and you get the 4-set, and I think the 4-set's going to be good for progression and difficult content, right? Chest Enchants. Health is going to be your old reliable. Powerful Stats is something you can use on farm if you want. And defense is what you use if you're really struggling for crit immunity. I would typically use the defense enchant on Cloak and Shield before I sacrifice the health on chest. But it's like your 3rd line of defense. And that's after you've already gemmed some defense too. All right. Wrists. 3 good wrists. Block value wrists, hit wrists, and then high stamina avoidance wrists. You could argue that these Unholy Knight might be the best for progression because they have the highest stamina with a stamina gem in them, and they're just pure avoidance. So definitely a great option to have. But yeah, on farm, you probably would like the hit rating or the block value wrists better. But yeah, Unholy Knight are still really good. Any of those 3 are great. We're going to gem that or enchant that with stamina. Onto our weapon. With weapons, we have a few options. The Last Laugh is going to be pretty much your best option, obviously really good for Orc too, because they can use an axe with their passive racial that gives them expertise. But of course, there's a mace that also would apply the same benefit to humans and dwarfs. So the best weapon is Last Laugh for pretty much everybody, right? Humans and dwarfs are going to see pretty similar results with a split Great Hammer. It's going to do less weapon damage, but they get a big boost of expertise. Depends on how you value expertise, what expertise you're currently at. But typically, you would say that Last Laugh is going to be better than Split Great Hammer, even if you are a human or a dwarf, but it's close enough that you should pass Last Laugh maybe to another tank if they can use it. But yeah, Last Laugh, then Split Great Hammer if you are a human or a dwarf. After that, there's a drop-off. Broken Promise is a little bit too slow. Great for dungeons and great for trash, but not the best for single-target bosses because it's too slow. You can't Heroic Strike enough. And then you've got pretty much pre-raid level items. You've got Red Sword of Courage and then Slayer of the Lifeless, which is from Nax 10, but yeah, pretty low item level, so not the best. Yeah, those are really your options there. You do want Last Laugh though. On to Shield. 3 good shields. Hero Sunder is a nice tanky shield. Barricade of Eternity has some expertise and is overall pretty good. But Wall of Terror is definitely the best. Highest item level, highest block, highest stamina, highest armor. It's just the best. When it comes to your enchants, for those weapon and shield, you're going to use Mongoose still because a lot of the new tank enchants aren't out right away. When it comes to your shield enchant, the block value on your shield is actually going to be really good. Your best like enchant on farm and stuff on average. You could argue that the stamina is going to be a little more safe for progression. I do really like stamina. You really only want to use defense if you're struggling with crit immunity and you feel like you have to, which in this set, because we're going for that 4-set and we're not using a higher defense chest, we do need to run the defense on our shield in this setup. Gloves. You've got 2 really good glove options. You've got your tanky gloves, and then you've got your set bonus gloves that have some expertise on them. These are going to be a little more threat, and of course help you with your socket bonus or your set bonus rather. I like getting the set bonus, but yeah, Disobedient are on paper a little bit better. Besides that, you pretty much would want one of these 2 in this gear, even though there's several other options you can use. All right, belt. There's one really good belt from Myaxta. It's the one you want. It's the one you want to go for. Try and get that, the Kite and Girdle. Nice blue socket as well. For enchants, definitely want the armor enchant if you're engineering. It's really good. If you're not engineering, you've got a few options. You could get hit, expertise, or the parry and threat enchant. I'd probably use the parry and threat enchant in most situations. A mix of avoidance and threat. Next we have, and I said if I don't have engineering, to be clear. If I have engineering, I'm always using armor webbing. Get a nice little frag belt, which is pretty cool if you are playing engineering. Again, engineering is really sick. Highly recommend it. Leg time, another big upgrade from everything else. Legs are by far BIS. Good for other tanks too, though. But yeah, really good for you. And I would, obviously can use several different legs as a placeholder. There's a lot that you can use to hold you over, but yeah, the Malagos legs are definitely the best, and you're probably just going to try and hold yourself over with either Dragon Brood leg guards or tier legs until then. Boots, 3 good boots. You got Valor boots, you got expertise and defense boots, and you got block value boots. A lot of sets are going to have to use the high defense from one of these 2 boots and won't be able to get the value from inexorable sabatons. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that. This is in theory the best boot though. It has very high block value, has the highest stamina with that socket. It's just the low defense makes it a little hard to use. So you have to look at the rest of your gear and see if you can make the defense work. But yeah, any of these boots are great. For boot enchant, it's kind of interesting. For a progression fight, Fortitude would be the tankiest option. And I would recommend trying to have a pair of boots that has this. For just normal everyday usage, Tuskar Vitality, just movement speed and stam is great. But if you're engineering, I would recommend Nitro boosts in most situations. I think you make a lot of cool plays with the Nitro boosts. You can rocket boot around. You can use the Nitro boots to actually avoid taking damage from bosses, kite them. I think they're really strong, but there's going to be some situations where you're not going to be able to use the Nitro boosts, in which case you would rather use Fortitude. So maybe having a backup pair of boots with Fortitude for a progression would be nice. All right, rings. Impregnable Fortress is the best ring. Really good. It should be your first usage of Valor. Great ring. Gatekeeper's great as well. Armor, hit, strength. It's great. Those are your best 2 rings. Sandworm Band is not too far behind. There's a lot of rings after that you can use. Doesn't really matter what you use after that. Some of them don't have defense, so you got to keep an eye on that. Some of them have hit and expertise, so depending on how much hit and expertise you're currently at, you'll see different value there. All right, on to our ranged weapon. We'll do that real quick. Armor-plated shotgun is your BIS. Most players are not going to be able to get Deadly Gladiator ranged weapons, nor would they, I guess, necessarily want to allocate points to that. So yeah, Armor-plate is definitely going to be your best bet. The next thing that's kind of close is these weapons that hunters want. So yeah, I would just recommend trying to get the armor-plated shotgun, even though it's kind of expensive BOE to craft. All right, trinket time. Your standard trinkets are going to be stamina trinkets. It's your go-to. But a lot of you guys are not going to necessarily be jewel crafting. These Brewfest trinkets should not be coming out. Blizzard already announced that the Brewfest rewards are going to be level 70 for early Wrath when Brewfest is kicking in, so shouldn't have to worry about those. Yeah, Essence of a Gossamer is great. Monarch Crab's great. If you're not jewel crafting, though, you need a different trinket instead of Monarch Crab. You can use something like Repelling Charge if you can make use of that defense. You could use Sonic Booster as just a stamina trinket if you're engineering to replace Monarch Crab. You lose the active. The active from Monarch Crab is really good. It's 300 dodge rating for 10 seconds, and it's a 1-minute cooldown. That's pretty... A 1-minute cooldown is really nice. It's really short. It really can make you feel a lot safer as a warrior, because sometimes you feel like you have no cooldowns up and you're very scared. That's one of the weaknesses of the warrior, is feeling scared when your cooldowns aren't up. So this is really nice. But yeah, if you're not jewel crafting, you're going to have to go with something like Defender's Code. Defender's Code would probably be my #1 recommendation if you don't have the Monarch Crab. But yeah, like I said, the Sonic Booster is great as well for stamina. In some fights, you're going to just want to have the highest stamina. Something like Commendation is still going to be pretty good. But yeah, that's why JC is really nice. Not only do you get the big blue stamina gems, but you get the Monarch Crab, which is really good. So that is why JC is so strong. Um, Other things I just want to mention, this whole time I'm talking about what's like good. I want to stress that you guys can have a lot of fun with your gearing too, whether it be in dungeons or in raids, especially like 10 mans. So we've been talking about like tanky survivability things because threat's usually not that big of a deal in Wrath, but you can have fun, man. You can do a lot of crazy stuff. You can use resilience trinkets and then a bunch of threat gear. You can use an expertise trinket from Eye of Eternity. This thing, if you want to have an explosive opener and get a bunch of expertise. The one thing I would be careful of is if you are doing like a crazy hit expertise build, just remember 56. 56 expertise is going to be the point in which you don't benefit from expertise anymore. Getting to 26 is a big boost in threat. So your first 26 expertise is going to be really good. Don't forget that you have an expertise elixir and you have expertise food. So count that in when you are considering how much expertise you need with your specific set. There's also hit food that you can use as well. I'll link this article. It's pretty helpful. A lot of good information in it about Prot Warrior on Wowhead, about different consumes and stuff. But yeah, keep that in mind. So we pretty much covered all the enchants, all the items. Last thing I'll leave you on is just like an example of how you can modify a set, right? So we made a slight tweak to this set. We lost a little bit of health. Not much has changed, but you can see our hit went up a little bit. Now, if we use hit food, the Snapper Extreme hit food, and what we changed is we're using hit wrists and hit cloak. Now we are going to be hit capped. And if we use the glyph of taunt, now our taunt is going to be doing really well, right? Got an 8% chance for our taunt to succeed, and we get our hit cap for our normal physical attacks. That's going to put us in a great shape, right? That's something that you can look for in a specific set if you want to make sure your taunt's not missing. If you really wanted to go overboard, you can get even more hit to make sure you get to 17% hit, which is the spell hit cap. Again, there's always so many different options. You could use a random like hit trinket from some of these PvP. Where is it? It's like a battle master. I mean, there's so many different wacky things you can do. You can use expertise cloaks. You can switch out really anything you want here. You can go crazy. You can use this chest, has no defense on it. Pure hit, pure expertise. Big threat item. Something that you could use in the right set if you have enough crit immunity. Likewise, you can use these gloves, have crazy threat on them, high expertise, high hit. Lots of different things you can do. Lots of fun you can have with different block value sets. It really does not matter what you're using except for progression. And for progression, some of the slight differences won't matter much, but having, just overall focusing on high stamina, high armor, crit immunity is going to be a really safe way to play your character. But yeah, this hit set, we easily could run something like this, and then you can switch out your shield enchant. 8% set like this is perfectly fine. So that's an example of how you can alter the set. Feel free to experiment with sets that are really high expertise, and just make sure you're keeping in mind the soft cap of 26 expertise. For your character, you want 8% hit for all your physical attacks to connect. And don't forget about your consumes. So thanks for watching, guys. That's pretty much it. Let me know if you have any comments. And I will see you guys in the next video.